Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I have a really special guest today. I have Alex, who is also known as Elevated Card Collector. Alex, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
No problem. I'm excited. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and kind of get started in terms of your background into collecting, what kind of got you started, and why you've been, your sort of journey in the hobby.
Yeah, so I started collecting probably at the end of '85, I guess. It's hard to remember exactly when, but I know I started with 1985 Topps football black border set. Collected that, then into '86 Topps football, and then like most people, 1987 rolled around and I was buying 1987 Topps baseball. And so collected, '88, kind of all sorts of stuff. But I remember in '87 buying a lot of the wood bordered '87 Topps, if you know the set. Um, and then the last cards I kind of remember buying was 92, 93 Fleer Ultra Basketball,
Hmm.
Shaq's rookie year. Yeah, like most people, it's ninth grade, kind of just got out of cards, other things. And then it wasn't until the very, very beginning, like January 2019, I started back. Have some friends of mine that have been collecting kind of on and off since they started way back in the day, and we were in a Facebook chat group about just other stuff because we're all friends from back home, about five of us in there. Somebody mentioned cards, and then my buddy Angus and Ian, they were like, "Yeah, we still collect cards and stuff," and they were posting some stuff, graded cards, and I was like, "Huh, I never really seen graded cards before."
Hmm.
And so then I just started getting on eBay, and I bought I think it's a 1990 score Bo Jackson with the shoulder pads and the bat, a card I had as a kid, and just wanted again inexpensive. And then I remember Jerry Rice, rookie, I won at an auction. And then from there, it was just kind of, I was constantly buying stuff, Jordan cards, a lot of base Jordan stuff, Jordan rookie sticker, '87 Fleer. And then you got into the inserts and been
Hmm.
going with that. And then, yeah, a lot of vintage baseball, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so on your Instagram, you describe yourself basically as a Hank Aaron collector, Michael Jordan collector, Willie Mays, Jackie Robinson. So, yeah, could you kind of explain in detail a little bit about what your collection kind of looks like right now?
Yes, because it has evolved over those three and a half years. Right now, I still collect. When it comes to vintage baseball, it's Jackie Robinson, Hank Aaron, and Willie Mays. Those are my guys. Pretty much all I buy are those guys. I love the three of them. Jackie Robinson was born in Cairo, Georgia, which is like 18 miles from my hometown. So always known about Jackie Robinson as a kid, and also reading about him and learning about him and stuff in school and just outside of school books. And then Hank Aaron, grew up a Braves fan, so loved Hank Aaron growing up. And Willie Mays is just Willie Mays. I always knew who Willie Mays was. So, as a kid, you really did not have a lot of those type cards, or I didn't. A friend of mine, one of the guys that has been collecting long term, his dad had a lot of baseball cards that he gave him and stuff. So, he had a few Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle type cards, but I never did. And so when I got back into it, that was something I was drawn to, was vintage baseball, and it's kind of art, it's history, it's
Hmm.
players that you knew about as a kid, cards you knew about but you could never obtain or acquire. And so, I love that. And those cards have pretty much stayed. I mean, I've gone in and out of a few of the smaller ones, but my Aaron rookie, don't have some cards posted. I have a gorgeous 51 Bowman Willie Mays. I'll show that real quick. I've got some cards out of the bank. I
Oh, yeah.
don't buy BBG cards normally, but it's just really nice. There's no print lines. There's no print dots. The registration's perfect. The centering's great. It has a small little wrinkle that you couldn't see unless you had it blown up, that only goes to the bat handle, so it's not much. It's an old BBG holder that's kind of cool. It has subs. Let's see.
You need to, yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
So not a lot of
Oh
vintage
yeah.
BBG holders have subs. Kind of cool, but I bought it to cross it over to SGC or PSA, and I just haven't done it. I took it to the national last year, but SGC wasn't grading on site, so
Mm.
I did not get it graded, and still debating on what to do with it. I just don't want to put it in the mail. It's just one of those cards you can't replace. So those type of cards really haven't left my collection. I haven't sold those where, like Jordan. I mean, I love Jordan, but I'm an admin in 1986 Fleer group on Facebook. I love that entire set. I've built a really nice PSA 8 through 9 set, completely centered, every card. My PSA 8.5 Jordan rookie I used to have, I got at 2019 National. And eventually the value just got to a point and I wanted other cards. And so I sold my Jordan rookie kind of in the peak and busted up my Fleer set.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bought a lot of Jordan inserts, and I still have a few, and I've sold some others. I like Kobe a lot. I do have a lot of LeBron stuff. So I guess when I have it on there, collector of, it's kind of I collect a lot more than just Jordan.
Right.
Well, I guess it's really Kobe, Jordan. I like Larry Bird, and LeBron.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I certainly noticed some of those Kobe's you had. You had some really amazing some of the rare Kobe inserts from the '90s era, and and obviously your vintage baseball and some of the other things that you've collected since you kind of got back into it. I mean, how did you go about building up that collection? Because from the sounds of it, when you got back into it in around 2019, you didn't really have you didn't already have like an inventory in place or things to kind of build up that collection like a lot of people have been able to do, prior to like 2020 prices just kind of going crazy on a lot of these cards. So what were some of the things that you kind of did to start building up that really nice vintage and basketball and baseball inventory that you have now?
So I was very fortunate. I wasn't, some people who have been in it long term or people that got back in 16, 17, 18, they were able to acquire more inventory, more cards in their collection that they could flip up into stuff, bigger stuff. And I've seen a lot of guys do that, like, Cardboard Chronicles, Josh Johnson, and other people that, were kind of got in at that time and bought big enough cards that they were able to, those cards got significant value. But I started with a lot of Jordan stuff, like I was telling you. PSA 9, like 87, Fleer, PSA 9, 88, 89, 90. I stopped about 91, 92. And then my Jordan rookie, I was able to acquire, and I bought it for, $3,500 at the National. I was able to sell it for $22,000. So that's a significant increase in value. The PSA 8 through 9 86 Fleer basketball set I put together, I was buying the commons on average for around almost $11 to $12 shipped for a long time. The stickers I was able to acquire, at a low value. And so when I did sell off that set, that brought in, an influx of money to buy other things with. But I was also fortunate that I was buying Kobe rookies, Stardate, EX 2000, other Kobe inserts, LeBron rookies. Oh my God, gosh, I got a 2003 Topps pristine refractor out of 1999, 9.5 BGS. I think it was like $500. Ended up selling for like $4,000. So some of the Kobe's I paid me $150, $200 for. I sold for $1,000 to $2,000 during the peak. So I was able to acquire different cards. Now I did buy a lot of my vintage baseball early on in 19. I was able to get my Jackie Robinson rookie, my Hank Aaron rookie, some other like 56 top stuff, 55 top stuff. And so, and that hasn't really gone anywhere, like I said. So I was able to get in those cards at a really good price, and they have gone up in value, and they really haven't come down like a lot of the other stuff. You mentioned the Kobe, like Jambalaya, probably. I don't have my old credentials, BGS 8.5, 96 credentials Kobe I had for a while. I actually sold the Jambalaya and the credentials to one of the big big sports card influencer type guys, Geoff Wilson, and can't say how you guys super nice guy.
Mhm.
It was easy to deal with. The deal transpired over a couple weeks of messaging him. I knew he was buying some Kobe inserts. So I was like, look, I'm looking to move these. Are you interested? It took a while to put the deal together. And when we finally did, he was actually in Denver for a conference for some of his other companies. And we met, and he also was doing one of the interviews with Marshall Fogel. I don't know if you've seen that, the big
Yeah, yeah.
baseball collection. So we met for lunch and we talked for about an hour and a half. And honestly, he's a great guy.
Mhm.
He gets a little bad rap, I think, and people don't realize that he's actually in it for the hobby. He has a lot of cards. He has a lot of cool cards. He's keeping a lot of stuff long term. Does he flip some stuff? I'm sure, but in the end, he cares about the hobby a lot, and he was a great guy, really good to work with. So I did sell some of those cards, and I actually took a loss on those two cards, a significant loss on my credentials. I just wanted to get into something else, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to part ways with a lot of stuff. And right now, with the market the way it is, I don't want to put a lot of money into it. Um, just not like I was before. Just kind of see where things go because I anticipate that we're going to get a lot closer to the 2019 prices. And
Mhm.
once we do, and not everything, but a lot of things, and once we do, I'll buy more. So just getting back to what you were asking, how I got into some of these cards, I was able to flip into a lot of stuff. Some of it's not going anywhere, like the vintage baseball. It's just too hard to find with that kind of eye appeal.
Yeah.
Buying five, sixes that, have fantastic, super strong eye appeal. And when it comes to modern cards like the Kobe Jambalaya, it's a BGS 9. Well, there's other BGS 9s. I don't have to find one in a lower grade that looks similar to a two grades above. So it's just easier to sell the more modern stuff, even though I love it and I don't want to part ways with it, because I could replace it down the road at any time. It's out there, it comes to market. Whereas, I mean, you'd
Right.
have to chase some of this vintage baseball stuff for years to find,
Oh
some
yeah.
of the a Hank Aaron rookie, the SGC6. I mean, it's just fantastic card. It's centered. It has bright color, and just that stuff is it's really hard to come by in that world, and because people don't really let go of it in the vintage baseball world. So to answer your question, I flipped a lot of stuff to get a lot of that, a lot of my collection, and I still, have a significant collection that I'm very thankful for. I'm very thankful for the timing. If some of it goes down, so be it. You know,
Yeah, I mean, yes. So from the sounds of it, it just seemed like you just got into things and sold things at the right time. And I do think your thought process of, you know, selling off the Jordans, the LeBrons, the other things that, like you said, they're really nice cards, but they'll be available. There'll be plenty of those available down the road. And yeah, things like a really nicely centered 51 Bowman Willie Mays is not going to come across very often. So, selling at the right time really is sort of key when it comes to staying in this hobby long term for sure, and especially when it comes to acquiring like those grail cards that people are always searching for and trying to get into. So yeah, I think your story should really resonate. I think with a lot of people because I think if you're smart about it, to me that's the way to do it. You know.
yes, and like I said, I like most people. I mean, this hobby can get very addictive. Just to the chase of finding a card, obtaining a card, enjoying the card when you first get it in the mail, that sort of thing. So I never really quit buying. I still buy smaller stuff still, even with the down market. I mean, and I bought when I sold. I bought some new vintage baseball when I sold the Kobe's, but this is a LeBron I got that was super excited about. The autograph is fantastic, and it's
Mm-hmm.
a really nice card, PSA 9. So I got on a plane and went to Seattle to pick that up from somebody, and so I also got this really nice 52 Bowman Willie Mays. Really tough card to find with any kind of centering at all, and registration issues. It gets really blurry, but I was really happy to find that. And then I bought my first one. never purchased the one before, but I've been chasing a nice 50 Bowman Jackie Robinson, and I never found the right one for
Nice.
for a significant commitment of 5 to maybe 7,000. And this
Yeah.
one was up on auction, and it's got some staining and stuff, but it's just a really nice card for what
Say,
it is.
I was about to say, outside of the staining, that's a really good looking one. And
Yeah,
I'm guessing that's the only reason I really got one is those stains or yeah.
it's just light staining there. The registration, which is a tough card, is really nice. So I just wanted to enjoy the card. So I don't necessarily always have to have the best of anything. I still buy some junk wax stuff. As a kid, my PC guy when I first started was Dale Murphy, Atlanta Brave, from Georgia. And so as a kid, I remember my dad taking me to the card shop in Atlanta, and I bought like almost every year card of Dale Murphy. And I remember having it at the binder as a kid, and really can't remember what happened to a lot of that stuff. If I traded it all my cards off at a certain point, but I just had a bunch of junk wax anyway. But when I got back into it one night, I was bored, got on eBay and just started buying up a bunch of raw Dale Murphys, and I have them in a binder. I love to collect sets. I have a 87 Fleer basketball set raw, an 88, an 89, with all the stickers raw. I'll have, I'll bust some junk wax boxes and put it in binders, a good card, and I like flipping through it. So it's not always about the really expensive stuff. So right now, with the market being kind of like it is, I'm still enjoying it, still buying stuff. And I will continue to kind of probably for life until I'm into my, a late stage of life when I may part ways with a lot of this when I'm for retirement, late 60s, 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of my questions. Do you have sort of an end game in mind with your collection? Because you said you're not necessarily out there to get the best graded versions of these cars necessarily or anything like that. But is there something in mind in terms of your PC that you would feel really just sort of happy and final about and just decide, okay, I think I'm good with everything I've collected up to this point.
So this was a question on the crossover this past Friday. Somebody asked if you could not get another card right from here, this point on, would you be satisfied with your collection? I mean, I want to be humble and say, of course I would be, but absolutely not. There's so much I want. And so the end game for me, I do have what I consider like investment pieces. Cards to me that are 5,000 above kind of carry an investment tag to it. Just they do to me. And so I do buy like the LeBron. I kind of that to me it is a PSA 9, so it's not a 10 or anything, but the auto is really nice, and I kind of think of that as an investment caliber card. My Hank Aaron rookie, my Willie Mays rookie, my Jackie Robinson rookie. So those have significant value. So I kind of treat that definitely as like an alternative type asset. And I have to factor that in and into life. If you're spending big money on cards or they carry that value, you have to kind of factor that into the overall picture. And I have a little girl that, I just told you was just born. She's not even 2 weeks old. So I don't know. I'm going to try to get her to collect some stuff, and she'll probably learn about some of this stuff, and Daddy will show her the cards and go over stuff, and maybe she'll watch sports and play sports, and maybe she'll have some interest and want something to keep. Maybe so. Maybe that changes. Maybe I don't sell it, but if not, I kind of treat it like another financial vehicle that for retirement kind of. I mean, if it goes down, it goes down. Cool. At this point, I don't really have much in my collection, but as the years go by, I will, because like I said, I mean, I intend to continue to spend money. And once I feel like we've hit the floor, I'll buy nice pieces again and spend, what I consider significant amounts of money for something that, just cardboard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I feel you there. I've got 2 kids now myself. One's 5 and one's 7. I was seeing if they would have a bit of an interest in sports cards up to this point, but so far they haven't. My 5-year-old really likes Pokemon cards, so I may have to start collecting some nice Pokemon for her when she gets older. Maybe she'll appreciate that. But
well, I wouldn't jump too fast because I have a nephew, and I think he's 10 or he's 11 now. But about 2 years ago, he liked Pokemon. He was big into Pokemon. And so I bought him a nice Pokemon card, PSA 9. I mean, it was like $80, but he thought the world of it. And Then a year later, he's asking me for a Jordan card. He's like, Uncle Alex, there's this Jordan card on eBay. I really want it. Will you get it for me for my birthday? And so I got on it. It's this PSA 9 Jordan, like 95 Fleer or something. And I was just like, awesome. So he's transitioned. He's into football. And so you never know. I mean, with the girl,
Yep, you never know. I still have hope, but I mean, of course, like really, it's. I mean, it's something that I've been doing since I've been like 8 years old, and so yeah, I'm kind of with like you. I'm probably going to be collecting until I'm probably old and gray and or whatever. So it's just it's the passion and the love for me personally, and so even if my kids don't appreciate it, I'll keep doing it. And then, when you get to a certain point, it's like, okay, maybe then if they don't want it, then I'll just sell it off or sell it to somebody who will want it and appreciate it, and no big deal. Um, but yeah, I mean, if they don't enjoy it, that's fine. It's kind of been something that I've always enjoyed myself personally anyway. And, when we were doing it, when we were younger, collecting cards wasn't a cool thing anyway, and it was all about your personal love and passion just for doing it, and for it to keep it up into your 30s and 40s and whatnot. It's still kind of the driving force. I mean, collecting cards is a lot more popular now than it used to be, uh, but still, it's just kind of your own personal driving forces in terms of how deep you kind of get into your own collections.
Yes, yes.
So
If you don't mind me asking real
yeah.
quick, what is your kind of what do you like?
So I've really just kind of stuck with basketball now. I tried to get into other things, and I've delved into football and baseball and Marvel and a few other things, but I've really just decided I'm just going to stay focused on basketball
Yeah.
and vintage basketball. I do like some modern basketball for certain certain players like LeBron and Kevin Durant, of course, and Russell Westbrook and people like that. But I've just been kind of sticking with vintage basketball. Right now, I'm just kind of really focusing on signed vintage basketball Hall of Famers, 61 Fleer, signed copies of 61 Fleer. I just did a big trade here recently where I got a 61 Fleer Bill Russell autograph. It was kind of a big card for me. I was really excited to get it. I had to trade some really big stuff to get it, at least big stuff for me to get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So things like that, that's the thing that I really personally enjoy, is like having sort of like a personal connection with the history of the NBA, history of basketball. And so those are the things I kind of always go for. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm not necessarily into getting the highest graded copies of those type of cards, but something that's still really, really, really pops. It's still has most of its coloring, or it's centered well, and has a really nice autograph on it. Then yeah, those are the things that I'm really going for.
Yeah, I saw what you had on your page, and I watched some of the Brian Oakley episode. He's a member of the '86 Fleer group, so I know Brian. We've
Yeah,
messaged each other and had some dealings with some cards together, and he's a great guy, and I know he loves the vintage basketball as well.
yeah, absolutely. Yes, I've definitely gotten a few of mine from him. No, so yeah, so I mean, is there one card in particular that you haven't gotten your hands on yet that you're just really dying to get one of these days? What is that card?
There's a lot, but there's one card. I mean, it's probably my favorite card in the entire hobby. A 52 tops Jackie Robinson.
Hmm.
It's a really tough card with the red background. I'm really big on registration and print quality as well as centering. So to add all that up into a card that also has white borders, not completely patinaed out, is really hard. There was a PSA 4 at Heritage about, I don't know, 8 months ago that was available, and I was in a position to get it, but I was going down this Kobe rabbit hole on high end inserts, and I ended up getting a jambalaya and something else, can't remember at the time, but the card ended up going for like 21 and some change, which was a really good deal. I thought it was going to go a little bit higher, so I was kind of bummed out. And to this day, it's still the only one in the grade that I can afford, and that's out of my price range unless I was flipping something to get it. Um, you know, I don't know if I'll ever obtain it because I'm picky. Like a two or a two's not going to cut it. I'm probably not going to find the right three. So and it maybe I could find the right three. So a three or a four is going to have to be that card, unless I found something like that had a pinhole in it. That was flawless. Which they come around in the vintage world, but that's a card that I've always wanted. Just his smile, the picture, the whole card, the way it pops with the background. Like I love the 52 Topps Willie Mays, but it's got a really dark background, and it just doesn't pop like the Mantle or the Robinson. So that Jackie is it's definitely the number one card and has been for a while. And I would love to have a 48 leaf. They just kind of got out of my price range. And I have the 49 Bowman, and a lot of people don't know, but the 48 leaf was really printed in 49.
Yeah, that's been a big debate. It seems like amongst
supposedly, not fact. But, so it doesn't quite get the love, and to me, it was a prettier card. The red background, the smile, the way it looks a little better. It took me a while to fall in love with the 48 picture, and then this just a really tough card, so might not ever have that one. But the 52 would be number one, and then there's basketball cards that are super high on my list. I finally got a Jambalaya, the Kobe. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I don't know that I loved it as much as I thought I would. Like for me, I like the Platinum Portraits. I have a Kobe Platinum Portraits, and I really love that card. I just love the way it looks in my hand, like holding it, looking at it. It's, so.
I mean, yeah, you can't go wrong with the Jambalaya. I also saw you had a takeit2.net Kobe insert, which that was another one of my favorite inserts from that time period. So. Yeah, any of those inserts you really can't go wrong with. But I understand your love for the 52 Topps Jackie. I mean, yeah, it's one of the all-time best baseball cards obviously there ever was. In fact, and I was one of my questions I was going to ask you, because you do have both the 51 Bowman Mays and the 52 Topps Mays. What is your preference? Do you like one more than the other when it comes to 51 Bowman versus 52 Topps in terms of your
the 51, just because it's a nicer card. The background on the 52 Topps is so dark. There's the contrast between Willie Mays and the background. It just doesn't pop. That dark purple doesn't really pop. I mean, it just doesn't have the same effect. And honestly, I like my 51 because to find one that doesn't have a print line, that doesn't have any fisheyes in the nameplate or any on its hat, that has good registration, I walked around National with that card last year, and my buddy and I, we would, Heritage or Golden, whoever had the nicest ones that they bring out, sevens, the eights.
Yeah.
I mean, just for my appeal, still like the winner of every one I even saw, except for maybe one. I think there was a 9 that was really nice that was on display. That might have been from the Diamondbacks collection. I can't remember. But so for me, it's just you can't find that card, even if you have 50,000 to spend on one. You're not going to be able to find one easy that has everything that one has. So everything put together, it's so hard. It will be so hard to.
Yeah, if you get PSA 8, it's probably not going to have as good of centering as your 9 centering that you've got on your BBG for sure. I mean, it's you said I'm nervous very often.
I'm excited. Actually, before we got on, I was thinking okay, if you lose it, you lose it. I have insurance mailing it. I'll get the value I paid for it, which is, I don't know if it's worth any more now or not. I mean, I overpaid to get it, a couple of years ago just because of what it is. I did talk to a vintage dealer at National that bid on it as well, and he's like, "So you won that card?" And yeah, he's like, "Man, that's the card." So I don't know, maybe it would do really well at like Robert Edwards auction or somewhere that was vintage based. But I want to go ahead and send it off. So I think I'm debating on do I try to cross it over? Mm-hmm. Are they going to want to cross it over? I don't know. It fits within the qualifications, but you know how that goes. There's no way I'm cracking it out because then I'd have no protection. I mean, I bought it from PWCC, and I know that if anything were to come up, there was an issue of it trimmed or anything like that, Betsy would buy the card back because they have in the past. And I even had a Jordan rookie that wasn't altered. It was an SGC 8.5. but I sent it to one of the guys at Blowout Corn Dog because all that trimming stuff was going around. I was new to the hobby and back in 19, and so he's like, "No, I think you're safe with that." A month later, he sends me an email and says it used to be in an authentic PSA holder. It's got a press corner. So it wasn't altered or anything. Could have been in a screw down. It was an SGC 8.5, who I called PWCC, ended up working with Betsy. And she bought it back. And every national I go and say hey to her, she's not there anymore. But just have built that relationship and trust that I know if something were wrong with the car, they're going to stand by it and make it right, which is super important buying almost anything. But especially in the vintage baseball world, if your card were to get called out or something, you know. I want to get it graded, but I don't want to crack it. I don't know if I should just put 4. I don't know if I should put 3.5 minimum grade. I don't know if I should put 3. I may have to, waste a little bit of money to find out if I do try to just cross it over. So what do you think about that? What's your opinion?
It's a tough choice. I mean, yeah, I mean, I understand, and I don't know what your thoughts would be about, maybe just trying to send it to SGC first and kind of seeing how it would do there.
That's what I was going to do. Yeah, because you don't have to pay the which I guess if it didn't grade, I wouldn't have to pay a ton, which I did find out at National. SGC actually charges on vintage cards.
I guess I didn't know that either. I don't. I thought they would know for the company that doesn't upcharge, but maybe maybe I was wrong on that. Yeah, or.
And so but that's what holder I wanted in. I think certain cards look good in certain holders, and you may feel the same since you collect vintage cards. SGC, the black borders kind of make certain cards pop. Other stuff, I'm okay with PSA, but when it comes to like 51 Bowman, 50 Bowman, 49 Bowman, 48 Leaf, I like SGC a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think so. Yeah, I think that's a pretty low risk if you're going to do that route at least first, just to kind of see how it goes with SGC, how they grade it, how they look at it, and all that stuff. And then if it does better there than what you've got in your BBG, then maybe considering. Yeah, I would only consider maybe doing it with PCA if I'm doing it in person with PSA. I do feel like that there's still a lot of weird things going on at PSA right now that probably don't want to get into all of it right now, but I have a lot of people still submitting to PSA, still having issues getting their cards back in a timely manner, and weird things like things not getting authenticated, and they know that it should be authentic, and there should be no
mint size.
Yeah, just a lot of weird things. So I don't know. I don't want to say definitely I don't want to lead you to doing the wrong thing, of course. So
I already have my mind made up. It's SGC first. I'm going to try to get it as a 4, cross it over. If it doesn't cross over, then I'll probably try PSA as a crossover to a 4. If that doesn't work, then I'd have to think hard about what 3.5 would I be, if it would cross, and but I'd be willing to take a 3.5 on it from either company. Honestly, I just don't. Beckett. I don't like Beckett for vintage baseball. I do like Beckett for other things. We don't want to get into it. I don't know if you saw the Nat Turner card, the PSA 10 he got when there was a strip left on it, but it came out of a BGS 9.5 holder. So there's stuff going on, and I think the volume they're dealing with at PSA is hindering their ability to do things the way they used to be able to do it. Is consistent as they were able to at one point in time. I think they had to hire new graders, but I think that could bode well, because I think I've seen some cars that were overgraded, whereas there was a time there where the serial number starts like a 4. Man, they were super strict, and they have been strict though on minimum size requirements of certain things. But SGC is kind of where I want to get it done. But I was going to mention Beckett. So I did watch an episode where Beckett's, I don't know what position he held with Beckett, but it was pretty high up. He came on board when they bought his company. I think it was with Jeremy Lee on Collectible Live. but he was addressing some of the things that I hate about Beckett. So I hate the inner sleeve because they come scuffed a lot of times.
Hmm.
Uh, and so the clarity of the inner sleeve is not good. He addressed all that. So I'm kind of excited about Beckett and the label. I don't like white label Beckett stuff.
Yeah.
So he addressed that. So I have a feeling he did say for sure they're getting better inner sleeves that have better clarity.
Hmm.
So that's going to make me happy. If they don't come scuffed half the time, that's going to make me happy. And then if they get rid of all the white labels and go silver, gold, black, that would make me happy where I would buy Beckett stuff that's bad. I'm talking about, modern type stuff. Um, that I avoid, like the BGS 8s or 7s of certain cards, whereas I would pick some up if it were a silver label. So just on grading, we were talking about that. I am excited to hear him say some of those things and hope that they make some of those changes because I really have been trying not to buy Beckett stuff, and I was happy to get rid of some of my Beckett stuffs, like my Jambalaya was in the BGS holder, so was my credentials, and just because I can't enjoy the card as much. There's flaws in the case or in the sleeve a lot of times, and it's just not as clear as a PSA holder.
Hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get steered off on a grading thing, but
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I used to prefer Beckett grading. I used to prefer BGS, but yeah, over time, yeah, I'm very particular with the type of cards I get in a BGS holder now for sure. And you're right, I don't like the paper labels. I'm very particular about that too. It's like if it doesn't come in the silver or gold label, then I'm really not that interested for some reason. It's just yeah, it's just
I think it hurts the value of their cards because I think
yeah,
most collectors feel that way.
yeah. But yeah, I feel like I've sold off quite a few of my Beckett's now, and I do have a lot more PSA than Beckett for sure, and that is and it's also interesting too though, just in terms of how things were perceived in terms of Beckett versus PSA really not that long ago. Like they it was like a real neck and neck type of thing, and you kind of went with your personal aesthetic preferences with in terms of the type of grader you went with. It's really a lot different now, and PSA has really taken over things in terms of that type of terms of that market, and SGC has really gained a lot of momentum with a lot of people. They've done a great job in terms of really
They
kind of
have.
working with customers and redoing their holders and labels and just yeah figuring out more than just a niche in terms of vintage. Like they've been around for vintage for forever, but now more people are open to SGC for just about everything, and they've done a great job rebranding themselves in that sort of way.
I agree, and PSA two for me when it comes to buying '90s inserts, the upside of PSA, if you're getting a newer serial numbered, more recently graded card, they're a lot stricter on 90 inserts than Beckett. So you can get a lower grade and still have just as good a quality of a card. But then they also have the insurance policy because I don't know, if you know, like the Z Pete, the Michael Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the Z Pete,
Yeah, a little parallel, yeah, whatever, yeah.
from the noise, no, not noise place. Sorry, my
Big
mind's
man
gone.
on court.
Yes, BMOC, the big man on court.
Mm-hmm.
So that was faked in Taiwan, and a lot of the BGS cards start with the serial number 8. A lot of them are still on the market. They're out there. BGS doesn't make any. They don't try to attempt to try to go buy them off the market. If you had one, you'd be kind of screwed. They're not going to give you the money for the card like PSA. So I think PSA definitely has some value there with that when it comes to the insurance policy, which I wish Beckett would do something about that. The guy
Yeah.
never addressed that. They talked about fakes, but they were talking about working more with other grading companies, get on the same page, I guess, of recognizing them or what's going around. But yeah, I wish BGS would do that.
Yeah, that and the fact that their website and set registry is still a mess, and
For their websites, that's
yeah,
tough.
it's been like that for years. It feels like it's just like yeah, that's why they've gotten behind. That's a big reason. So
Call it the poor for the worst run company in the hobby.
yeah, it's a shame. Yeah. Well, I did want to go back and ask you about your Hank Aaron rookie. It's a really nice copy of the Hank Aaron rookie. Is there a great story behind it in terms of you finally obtaining it into your collection or anything of that nature?
Not really. I've been chasing one. Didn't really know the grade. Like I said, it could have been a really nice 4, 5. Didn't know that I would get a 6. All of a sudden on PWCC popped up when they were on eBay, and
Mm-hmm.
I just fell in love with it. And I just, I wanted it. I and I just bid on it. And at the time, I mean, I paid for it, but it wasn't anything outlandish. But it was definitely over market. It has a top 30% sticker on it. But I was super happy to have it. I was super excited when I got it in hand. And like I said, it's never left the collection, which
Yeah.
speaks volumes for someone's collection who's constantly kind of evolving over the years, and some things are a staple and some things aren't, but it definitely is. And I love it. And I get people message me on Instagram like, is this for sale? What would you take? And I've gotten some really high offers, and it's just, yeah, nope, just one of those cars I'll keep till way down the road.
Yeah, well, I think you should. Yeah, for sure. It is definitely a great copy of it. For those, just I'll link your Instagram link here in my description so that people can go see it because it is really nice. Um, so in terms of the basketball side of your collection, you've gone over some of the things that you've had in hand, some of the sets that you've completed and still have in hand. What are some of the things that you would say are maybe still some of your favorites basketball cards that you've ever had, or maybe a Kobe or a LeBron that you're still thinking about possibly getting in sometime in the future? Just things that are really high on your list in terms of some of your favorite basketball cards ever.
Yeah. So as a kid, and I remember as a young kid shooting hoops in the yard, pretending I was Larry Bird. So Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. My dad lived in Redondo Beach, California, so I did like the Lakers, but it was Bird at first, and then a little bit of Magic in the Lakers. I know that sounds hard to say because the rivals, but I did like
Yeah.
them both. And so I do like Larry Bird. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of great cards. I have a fantastic rookie that I bought from a buddy. I didn't buy it from him; bought it from his nephew. It's one of my best friends that passed away, and he collected all his life. And he was getting excited back in when we were all when I got back in. He was super excited, and there are other two buddies, and so I picked up a copy from his nephew that acquired his collection. He had recently got it, and I helped him kind of get it, and I just wanted that card, and I wanted a copy, so I got that from him. Some kind of that copy will never go away. I don't know if I'll ever get. It's a PSA 7. I don't know if I'll get an 8 or a 9.
So you're talking about
Um,
the 80
yep,
Taj with him and Magic and Dr. J all in the
yep,
same.
yep. This one has no print line, no black print marks across it. Centering's okay, but none of the flaws that I think plague that card.
Yeah.
Um, the card that I want in basketball the most that I bid on one PWCC weekly that ended last night. Once it got up to a certain point, I was out because I do feel like cards are going to come down just a little more. So I'm kind of hesitant to overspend like I would used to. But they had a Star 101 PSA 5 top 30%. It was a fantastic card. I mean, it had a little bit of chipping on the surface on the top left and on the bottom left, but the corners were sharp. The entire card was sharp. The centering was actually pretty decent. It kind of scared me a little bit because I don't know how many were sheet cut. So the Star
Yeah.
101 is probably the number one basketball card I want to get because I did sell my 86 Fleer set, which included my 57 Jordan rookie, as well as my sticker. I have since acquired a PSA 8 perfectly centered, beautiful sticker, Jordan 86 Fleer sticker. But the Star with the pop report, the pops are so low compared to the 57. The 57 is literally they just keep coming out of the woodworks. They just keep coming and keep coming. And there's just nothing special about owning that card unless you have one. The only thing that differentiates that card to me is the centering and the focus and the color. So you could ultimately have a 7. To me, that was just as special as a 10 in that card. And I don't necessarily like to buy grades rarity.
Yeah.
If there's like over 30,000 that have been graded, I don't really care about a 9. Still has almost 3,000 copies graded of the PSA 9. So it's just not going to be special. And it carries such a high price tag that the 101 just with, if you look at the pops, it's like a less than 1,100 PSA. Don't know about the other company, or less than 1,100 overall, I think, with all the grading companies. Sorry.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I've always had a big preference towards the star cards anyway, myself. With any of those big rookies from that era, whether it's Jordan or Hakeem or Barkley or any of those guys, I've always kind of preferred getting the star card rookies as opposed to the Fleer. And, I still appreciate 86 Fleer Premier and its importance in the hobby and things of that nature, but I just prefer the star cards. I do think the star cards look better, and I do think that, yeah, when you think about just the total print run in general of those star cards compared to Fleer, and so yeah, trying to find and the fact that Star was a small company, obviously when they were printing those, and so there are a lot of centering issues, and there are a lot of printing issues in general with a lot of ones that they did wind up printing and distributing. So yeah, to find a really good copy of a Jordan 101 star card. Yeah, I mean, like you said, you can find thousands of nice copies of 86 Fleer. Those are never going to go away. They will be on the market for forever. But those Star Jordan copies, yeah, it'll get harder and harder to find those probably, because I bet you we're getting to that point now, like you said, with the prices dropping, that I think more people that are actually buying those things now are going to be the people that are just going to just go ahead and hold on to them and not put them back on the market for quite some time,
Yeah, and I really would love to have a PSA 7. That's the grade. This 5 just happened to come up, and it was so nice that it was like, okay, that could be a great placeholder. And if that ends up being the only one I get, and I didn't upgrade it down the road, so be it. But a PSA 7, I just think they'll come down a tick more. But like you're saying, the print run was low, the pops are low. So I don't know. I'm just looking at the market as a whole. I just think we're going to get closer and closer to 2019 prices. So I kind of I'm buying stuff based on looking at what the prices were in 19. Yeah. And so I think I'll be able to get into one, hopefully. But there's not a lot of PSA 7s. There's, not a lot of PSA graded ones yet. So, and I don't really like some of the BGS ones because of some of the stuff we've discussed, about the holder, the clarity, whether it's overgraded or not. But to answer your question, some of the other cards, I've always wanted an 03 Exquisite Kobe out of 100 patch auto.
Yeah.
I can't get the LeBron, but I love the 03 Exquisite set. I understand its significance in the hobby. 61 Fleer, 86 Fleer. I think the 03 Exquisite is, right up there with 52 tops. I just think it's going to stand the test of time. It was the first of what it is. And I almost bid on a Larry Bird 03 Exquisite patch auto out of 100. It was a BGS 8.5, ended on Pro Steam last night for like $2,200. Had a great patch, great auto, but it was the BGS thing. I was just like, I don't necessarily want to buy a bunch more until I know that I can get it reholdered and enjoy the card, because enjoying the card in hand is really big to me. And if it's got scuffs on the holder and stuff we talked about, it's not there. So the 03 Exquisite, the Star 101, those are kind of two of the bigger cards that I really want. There's some Jordan inserts that I still want to get that, I'll probably buy, in the years going forward, and some Kobe inserts, and so they have a lot of the same inserts. So,
yeah. Well, those are definitely some nice ones to shoot for. And yeah, see if the price points of some of those will go down here a little bit in the near future. I'm hopeful that some price points go down for some of the things that I'm looking to add for sure. Will go down, but we shall see. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens here these next 6 months or whatever. In terms of some of these price points. But yeah, I do think you're right. I think we'll start to see prices start to look more like they did, late 2019, early 2020. And then I think more and more people will start to just hang on to these again long term. Like you start
it'll be just collectors left.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that'll make them kind of go back to the more normal trajectory of what those cards should be doing as opposed to what they did in in
Yeah.
early 2021. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, I was part of it too. I've lost 50% on a Kobe's credential that cost a lot of money, and I've never really taken losses on cards like I did on that. I took a couple thousand on the Jambalaya. I made a couple thousand on a Jordan Auto I had graded and sold. Somebody just kept pestering me on Instagram for it, and finally I gave in. But um, yeah, I think the overall the market, and I say collectors have left, but I mean collectors, investors. Again, if you're spending X amount of money on a card, I think there is some level of investment attached to it. But people that want to hold it, that enjoy it, and they don't necessarily want to look at it as a flip or as a money making vehicle or device. So I think we will get closer to 19. I don't know, but I was going to ask you, vintage basketball, how has it performed? Because vintage baseball has held up like a rock. I mean, if it's a nice example, it's probably gone up in value. And even during this downturn of the last year and a half, things have continuous to climb.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of vintage basketball has gone down, but I mean the peaks that we saw with vintage basketball were just really insane. Um, and so I think it is still a little bit natural for some of those things. Even a lot of the highly graded stuff has gone down a little bit. Aside from just your really extremely rare stuff, like your PSA 9 Bill Russells or Will Chamberlains have
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah,
gone down,
yeah,
obviously, or anything like that. But your other ones, if you're in like the 4, the 5, the 6 range, like most of us are, a lot of those price points have definitely gone down with vintage basketball, and I think for the good. I think a lot of those needed to come down, and so more collectors can stay into those type of cards than what they shot up to. A lot of 4s, just even for like Jerry West and Oscar Robertson 4s. Yeah, they're great cards. I of course love 61 Fleer more than anyone else probably, but the price points that a lot of those 4s and 5s shot to, and we were talking like several $1,000s for some of those cards that really probably shouldn't have been that high. So the fact that a lot of those have come back down to around $1,000 or a little under $1,000, I think it's good, because I think it's good for somebody to be like, hey, I really want to get into a really nice Jerry West rookie, but I don't want to pay $4,000 for it, but I'll pay maybe around 1,000 for one, and they can find a really nice one for around $1,000 again.
yeah, yeah. No, one day I'd like to pick up a nice Kareem tall boy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Kareem has gone down too. So now might be a good time to look into. I think if you're looking at like a 5 or a 6 for sure, I think you can find one and get a pretty decent price for it now, as opposed to 6, 8 months ago or whatever, for sure.
Yeah, I will say the Bird Magic is taking a beating. Man, that card is really taking a beating.
Yeah, well, and that's one of those cards I think people have come to realize there's a lot of them out there. They're
Right, right.
yeah. I love that card too. I had a PSA 6 for the longest time. I did finally trade that in for another card that I currently have. But I did enjoy my PSA 6 for a while, and I got it for like $300. So when I traded it, it still had like roughly a $1,100 trade value or something like that. So I was still
Yeah,
pretty happy with that. But you're right, a lot of those 80 tops cards really have kind of tanked.
yeah. It's a good
Which I
time to buy. It's a good time to
yeah,
buy for
I
people like
say
you're
it's
talking about. I mean, you
yeah
can get into a PSA 7
yeah
for, I don't know, it's 11, 12, 13, $1,400, depending on the quality of the example. And that's affordable for the masses, or for most of the masses. So I do think that's good too. And, the eights are kind of that border of where there's a lot in the population. But then when you get to the 9, they have significant value, and it really hasn't gone down. Maybe from the peak it's down, of course, but not as much as like the 7. Um,
right. But yeah, like you said, I mean, it's a great time if you want a really nice copy of a Larry Bird, Magic Johnson rookie. Yeah, it's a great time to do it for sure. Um, um, well, those are really all the questions that I
yeah.
have for you today. Thank you so much once again for taking the time to do this interview. Was there anything else you wanted to make sure to mention? Anything else that you want to plug? Uh, you're basically just kind of on your Instagram and just a few of the other Facebook groups and things like that that we've discussed essentially.
Yep. And a ton of Facebook groups. I love the community there. I've met a lot of great people in the hobby from those Facebook groups, gotten together with them at National, spent some time with people, and that's great. So I like the Facebook groups. So like I said, I'm the admin of the 86 Fleer basketball group, one of them. That's a great group of guys. And no, at Elevated Card Collector, check my page out. But no, I thank you for having me on. I've enjoyed it. It's been nice.
All right. Yo, well, yeah, absolutely. Once again, thank you so much, Alex. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your collection as well. That was really awesome to see some of the stuff that you've collected over these last few years.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I had a great time. Thank you. Thank you for having me.